What's up, everybody? If you're a regular listener or viewer, if this is your first time, you get to meet somebody new if this is your first time or if you're regular. But this is Pete. Pete's going to be joining us on the podcast today. We're going to be talking about kind of he and Mary, his wife Mary, their experience plugging into church and why that has us excited. And we want you guys to get excited because, Pete and Mary are pretty awesome. What's going on, Pete?
Nothing much. How you doing, Sam?
Doing well, man. So you have been at Community Bible since January, February of this year, right?
Around that time.
And as someone who has grown up in church, spent a lot of time in church, what unfortunately can happen, and this isn't the case for everybody, but what can unfortunately happen for a lot of people is, all right, we'll attend this church. We'll go for, a year, see what it's like. After a year, maybe we'll start attending some classes. Maybe we'll get plugged into smaller, right? But unfortunately, people can kind of tend to, they want to test the waters first, almost like, well, maybe we'll serve down the road. Maybe we'll get plugged in down the road. We just kind of want to feel things out. And it can lead to people feeling like they're not connecting and things like that. You and Mary went totally different, which is awesome, right? And so talk to us a little bit about that, because when you started, the first time I met you guys was at an adult class, right?
That's right. Yeah, it was.
And that's exciting. As people who teach the classes, like, we get excited when we see new faces at the classes, because that's unusual for people to be willing to do that as brand new to a church. And then from the class, you and I talked a couple times and you're like, all right, like, let's get plugged into a small group. And from there, you were like, all right, let's plug in. Like, how can we serve? Can we help in the kids wing? Can we help with, and we did VBS, within a couple months of you guys getting here, and you were helping with VBS. And so it's awesome to see a young couple with kids just, all right, if we're going to be part of this church, we are going to be all in, right? Like, we're not going to hold anything back. We're going to attend discipleship opportunities. We're going to attend fellowship opportunities. We're going to serve. We're going to help. So what kind of led to that? How has that been? Just walk us through that approach for you guys.
Well, honestly, that's not something we were used to doing.
Okay.
And there's nothing wrong with testing the waters. But
Sure.
after we had tried out a few churches and they weren't for us and we came here, we were thinking, all right, what better way to test the waters than to actually get to know these people? Which is really, it's a lot harder to do that when you're just coming to, the Sunday service, because you're max talking to people for 10,
maybe
15 minutes.
10 minutes before or after.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's really superficial, getting to know people that way. So there was a large hole in our life where the church community should have been. Mm-hmm. And we hadn't been going to church since we got married. We were just brand new believers. So when we got married, we were brand new believers. I was a new believer a couple years before we got married. And so it was definitely us seeing that there was such a huge need to have your community surround you and be involved in it. Otherwise, your community is more of the world. And when your community is the world, you're probably not living right, or you're having the wrong influence, basically.
Influence is a huge word. We tend to reflect, or at least be shaped by what we surround ourselves with most frequently. Right. Okay. Right. So you're looking at your lives, you're like, all right, we want to get plugged into community. We're missing this in our life. So it was just kind of a, we're diving in, or...
Yeah, you know what? We had visited, I think, 4 or 5 churches before that, and I can't really say, honestly. Tony from Mosaic, he had actually pointed us in this direction. He was doing marriage counseling for us and stuff.
Yeah, good guy.
We didn't get it all done before we got married, so we were kind of continuing on afterwards. But yeah, so we went here, and I don't know. I think it was honestly a God thing, because in our spiritual journey, it's been him fixing one thing after another and showing us what's the better way to live. And so when we got here, we were just so encouraged by the people coming up to us and being genuinely interested in us, which you don't really get a lot of the time. And it was especially nice since we were already looking for something like this to be involved in. So yeah, after we got here, we we decided, all right, well, maybe these people are weirdos, or maybe they're pretty cool. We might as well check it out and see where it brings us. And yeah, we weren't disappointed. James was a little weird, but what can you do? You always have one nut job.
Hi, James. James is behind the camera today. If you're a regular listener, you're probably wondering where he is. He's still here. He's in the room. He's got his headphones on. Look at you, man. You're official back there. You feel good?
I look good.
You look good. You do look good. Yeah, so you guys, I mean, I just remember talking to you after, I think it was like the first or second class you attended, and you're immediately like, well, are there small groups we can get plugged into? What particularly, so you talked about wanting to build deeper relationships with people at church beyond just the, before and after, which led to you guys attending the classes and stuff. Talk a little bit about your experience attending classes as brand new to the church, any blessings that may have been, because I think sometimes we can kind of fall into the rut of like, oh, I know the Bible. Do I really need to show up for church before church? You know what I mean? And then, lead into why you wanted to take that next step, even into getting plugged into a small group.
Sure. Well, that feeling of I know the Bible honestly wasn't there for me. I didn't know anything about it really. I grew up in Sunday school, but then, all throughout high school, I kind of quit that. And even after in my young adult life, I wasn't going to church. Yeah. And you're not really studying hard when you're a little kid. So it was really interesting to me to see you dive deeper into the Bible and see what it means. And even the stuff I had heard, it was really showing new meaning to me. Mm-hmm. I feel like the Bible's like an onion, much like an ogre.
Much like an ogre, and, dude. I love that you reference Shrek.
And so just every time I'd read it, there's like a new meaning coming out to me. As far as us getting involved in a small group, it was more of the community feeling. We wanted to get to know people more personally, get to know what they're doing in their lives, possibly their futures, what they're dealing with. We wanted to be able to be in a relationship with people that was beneficial for both of us. Like if they're going through a hard time, we could help out because we've been through some stuff. Yeah. If we were going through a hard time, that people could help us, and that's really worked itself out like that, which is nice.
Well, and that's such a biblical approach, right? Galatians 6:2, bear one another's burden and so fulfill the law of Christ. So for you to say and to recognize, I mean, as young believers that, we want to be in relationships where we can bear their burdens. Right. And we have people who, if we're weighed down by life, we can go to for support. That's what church is supposed to look like. Right. Okay. So before we get into kind of what you have seen as God doing through that willingness to be involved, we'll talk about that third piece, which is the other, another element that's been so encouraging is not only are you guys looking to get plugged in and connect with people, which is a benefit to you, right? Like, okay, we're making friends, we're building those relationships and stuff, we're growing, we're getting depth, but you guys have been so eager and willing to get plugged in serving, which I think for a lot of Christians is that final hesitant step of, right? Like they still view church as, all right, this is something that's going to nourish me and stuff, like, which is good. Church should nourish you. But to see you guys immediately ask, how can we serve? How can we help? And to see you just jump in with that has been awesome. So what was the drive behind that of, all right, not only do we want to build relationships, we want to serve if this is going to be our church?
Yeah, well, there's a couple answers to that question. One is, I used to be that guy, like sitting in church, hear about like opportunities to volunteer, and I'm like, other people will get it. It's all good. You know what I mean? After volunteering and seeing some, openings, I realized, wow, sometimes they may need help. I mean, need to come and help out. Yeah. I never saw myself, helping out with kids or anything. And as God was leading me through his journey and what he wants me to do, I now work at a drug and alcohol for juvenile kids. And so he's showing me what I am meant to do, like what he's made me to do. So I'm like, all right, well, I guess maybe little church kids will be a little easier than that. And boy, was I wrong. No, I'm just kidding. No, they were great. It's fun, definitely interacting with kids that young and innocent, and you could just see all they wanted to do was have fun. So Sorry, what was the original question?
What led you to, and then I mean, even to see you guys serve for VBS, right? Like you're working, you have your schedule in the week. You're still, I mean, you're still relatively new to community, right? Like when we did VBS, you had maybe been at the church 6 months.
Yeah.
So we're not talking you're 2 years in, you're 3 years in. You're still in your first 6 months, and you're choosing to give up your weeknights to serve at VBS. What led to that? Because that's a big thing. I mean, that's cool.
I would love to see. I mean, I already see it a lot, and I love the community of helpers and people who are willing to put in work, just because I feel like they see a vision of that on a massive scale, basically. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is, what am I trying to say? People. I don't know, man. Like I guess it also comes back to getting to know people, because when people know that you are willing to help, they're saying, all right, these guys aren't just wanting to take.
Yeah.
They're willing to put back into it. Mary also has a very giving heart. And we just had our baby then, and she even still came.
I know, which was, I mean, Mary walking around with a newborn. It's like, okay, she just gave birth and she's here serving. And I think you said something interesting and powerful. She has a giving heart, right? And that's something I see in the two of you guys, is you have a heart for depth and for Christ and for authentic biblical community. And what that has translated to is a willingness to put yourself out there.
I remember what I was trying to say.
Okay,
all right, here's what
nice.
I was trying to say. It was that, okay, God calls us all towards a certain, like he made us all a certain way to do a certain thing. And no matter what he made you for, there's still something you can do with your local community, basically.
Absolutely.
So like, maybe I'm not like at where he wants me, I'm on the journey. I'm not where at my potential yet, but I can still be helping out while I'm doing that. You don't have to be a perfect Christian to help your church, is what I was trying to say.
If I stand up and applaud while I go out of camera, but yes, you don't have to be a perfect church. You don't have to be a perfect church. You don't have to be a perfect Christian to be used and to serve.
Right.
And a lot of times God uses that to grow you in that journey.
Yes, indeed. I'm definitely not a perfect person. He's definitely grown me, but the parts where he has grown me and the parts where he shows me, hey, here's where you can help, I use that to, the church's advantage, my advantage, and it grows everyone around.
And so we've kind of talked about this now as we're starting to get into growth, but what would you say, we've talked about the faithfulness of God, and he doesn't call you to serve. He doesn't call you to engage without a reason, right? It's designed for our blessing to draw us closer to him. So as you and Mary, as new believers, as new to the church, as you threw yourself in and got plugged into discipleship classes and joined a small group and serve and volunteer and give your time, have you seen the rewards of that and the blessing that God?
Yeah, without a doubt. We now look forward to, I never looked forward to going to church in my whole life.
Yeah, it was just something you did, right?
It was just
that's what
something
you're
I
supposed
did.
to do.
I remember as a teenager, my parents being like, all right, it's time for church. And I'm like, dang, I really don't want to do this. I just want to relax, watch some TV. And that's really what pushed me out eventually. It was that combined with a lot of other things, but it was thinking, wow, this is really useless. I obviously didn't have a relationship with God, and I didn't have a relationship with my community. So what was keeping me there?
Yeah.
At least if you have a relationship with your community.
Maybe I'll see some friends, but
yeah, but even if you have a relationship with the community, you're seeing the blessings and the fruit of their lives, and like, wow, maybe there is something to this, which I've seen that all around. I've seen that all around with every person I interact with.
And so now you're at a place where you're like, I'm excited for church, right? Yeah, that's cool. So as we wrap this up, what would you say instead of me, you're talking, you're doing coffee with somebody who's like, yeah, we really, I don't think small groups are worth the time. I'm sure other people will serve other people. We're content to kind of, show up 10 minutes late on a Sunday, sit in the back, sneak out early, that's church for us. What would you say to them? How would you encourage them?
Sure. Well, I mean, everyone's different. I guess, I don't know. If I was talking to a carbon copy of me, I would be telling myself, what's the point, man? Like,
Yeah.
why are you even doing this in the first place?
If you're just going to go through the motions.
Yeah, if you're just going to go through the motions, it will bless your life. Like, it's not a question. Like, if you put into it, if you are genuine with the people who you hang out with, you will see that normally they're genuine people back, and they genuinely care for you, which everyone needs a community, no matter who you are, even if you're not a Christian, atheist, whatever. Like, you need a community. That's where a lot of, I think, our social problems are coming from. People need to feel like they belong.
Yeah.
And if you feel like you belong in a place where you are growing spiritually with the God who is God, then I don't think you can go wrong.
I cannot think of anything else to add to that. So, dude, this was awesome.
All right.
This is not going to be your last time
This is fun.
chatting with us.
Cool.
Yeah, we have a
Sounds
good time. All right. We'll see you guys next time.
All right.